How do I know when it's safe and okay to agree with the majority? How do I know when I should go against the majority? When should I go against the majority?
How do you know when the majority is becoming dangerous? How do you know when something's getting out of control, when a lot of people believe something that is not right, not true? Welcome, everybody. We've got Mark Twain today. I'm here with my brother, Dan. We're very active right now with a state appropriation. We're going to be training teachers across the state of Illinois this school year. And we're excited about it. It's a little daunting, but we finally have a system together where we get it for about 90 minutes and we're able to train teachers in the Teach Different method. And then we also give out access to our online community for a whole school year as well. So that has like all the curriculum and really all these quotes that we do on the podcast, we immediately put it into our community for other teachers to use and weigh in on and to see how it worked in the classroom, what kinds of aged kids or what types of classes it works really well on. That's what we're doing this school year. We're excited. If you're either a teacher or a teacher, and it doesn't even matter if they're not from Illinois, send them to Teach Different's website and just tell them to contact us. And just say, hey, someone told me about your podcast or I heard you on the podcast. Can I get into one of these trainings? And we'll figure out a way to get you taken care of.
If there's a passion to learn the method, we're ready to follow it. So
yes.
Don't be shy.
And, and even saying that, if you're not like an official certified teacher, but my cat just showed up. I'm just going to sit here and let him figure
Just
out
roll
that
with
he's
it.
Not really, he's going to sit down for a second. That's fine. But if you're not a certified teacher, but you work with youth or you work even with adults on a consistent basis, and you feel like you could benefit from this conversation framework we're about to model, do the same. Contact us. Just tell us who you are. We're at the point now where we'd love to react to interest, and people who like what we do. So that's an open invitation. So here we go. We're gonna model the method right now. If this is your first time, this quote is from someone I know you've heard of, Mark Twain. His real name is Samuel Clemens. It's paraphrased a little bit from his notebook that they retrieved from 1904. And it's a really good quote for the theme of democracy and political legitimacy. But also, I think there's a psychology to the quote that's really, really interesting. And I'm going to read it twice and then away we go. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. Mark Twain.
I think this speaks to groupthink. When ideas are put out there in the atmosphere and more people start latching onto them and more people believe them not, there's a sense, at least Twain is saying, that there's a momentum behind the group thinking alike. And what that should cause in us is time to, pause and reflect. It's almost saying, the claim is, to me, it's saying things are less likely to be good ideas the more people believe in them. That you should treat ideas that are popular with suspicion would be how I would articulate the claim.
Yeah.
Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect.
There's something about when everybody agrees or when most people agree about something, that's when you have to catch yourself. See, this is where I feel it's psychology here that he's pointing out. Following the crowd not wanting to stand out. Because let's face it, most people are not leaders. They're not unique individuals. They would rather be like others because there's a safety in it. Whenever you're adhering to the majority opinion, there's a great likelihood that you may be doing it just for cover, and that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing to do. Hence, pause and reflect. So he's not saying it's wrong. Here we go. Are you with me there? He's not saying it's wrong to follow the majority.
He's saying that don't let the psychology of wanting to be accepted, perhaps, and join with everyone else, don't let that obscure what might be a really bad idea. I got to go, I'm imagining a middle school class or even younger, high school as well. Okay, let's just go any age. This would be a great quote to teach peer pressure. How
Yep.
would you introduce a conversation on peer pressure? This is how you would introduce a conversation on peer pressure. Asking the kids, when have you found yourself agreeing with everybody else? And
And
maybe pausing and reflecting on whether or not it was the right thing. And what are some situations where you've agreed with the majority and you haven't paused and reflect? You just catapulted in and didn't really reflect on it. And maybe it didn't work out or it got you burned. This is a peer pressure discussion waiting to happen with some good personal experiences.
I would put some teeth on the storytelling prompt. I would say, when have you agreed with the crowd on something and later regretted it? That's going to bring out peer pressure, maybe even witnessing a bullying situation where you didn't speak up. You just kind of stayed with what most everybody else was thinking at the time. And look, you got to see someone who got hurt. Maybe they were even someone you knew and you betrayed their trust, but anyway, some type of experience where it didn't work out, I think would be a good way to kick this off.
Yeah. Starting with personal experiences has been a technique that our teachers have used with success. Don't even start with the quote. Start with a question about peer pressure and then bring in the quote.
Right.
That's a clever. We learned that, by the way, from our teachers. Steve and I did not ever use the method in that way, but the teachers did. And it was a great idea.
Yeah, it'll bring it out. I'm trying to think of it in some other way. I said psychology. There's just something about when a lot of people believe something, that's when you have to step back. It almost becomes easier and easier to believe something. The more people that believe it, you almost can get lazy, maybe, and start believing things and accepting them as true because they're so safe. Everybody agrees. That's the psychology he's fighting, I think.
This could really be taken quite naturally into the political realm. You take any kind of issue like the Iran war, let's say, and public approval is strongly against the Iran war. Does that mean that the Iran war is the wrong war? Or does it just mean that a lot of people think it is?
Well, that paused and reflect.
That pause and reflect. What is it about the war that makes it wrong, and so
Yeah.
on? Because it's easy to jump on the bandwagon and just say it's wrong. That's simple to
Right.
do.
I'm just saying what complicates things like that is there's so many preconceived notions going in as to why we went there and how it was justified. And it was almost baked in, the majority, minority, or whatever you want to call it, the opinions about it were baked in beforehand. That doesn't really change his point.
Right. And just to go real government here, I just retired after 34 years of teaching, and I taught AP government for 33 years. And one of the concepts I bring up early in the course in my foundations unit is the concept of the tyranny of the majority, which is something that James Madison discussed in the Federalist Papers. The idea that majorities, one of the costs of finding a majority and being convinced of something is that they often tyrannize minority opinions. And the groupthink overcomes and suppresses other voices. So that's when I think, pausing and reflecting once a majority is gained is a really important thing to remember. Otherwise, people will execute oppression on each other.
Again, I would turn to psychology on that. The more people believe it with you, the safer you are. And the safer you are, the more you feel that you have some leeway in how you treat other people because there's going to be no repercussions.
Right. No objections.
So pause and reflect. Why are you doing it? Be a critical thinker. That's his message.
It might be a popular opinion, and it actually might be the right opinion, even if a lot of people agree with it. But you have to reflect and send it through some analysis first before concluding that, or it can be dangerous.
Can we think of a majority opinion where pausing and reflecting is unnecessary? How about you shouldn't take advantage of a child? Should you be pausing and reflecting? Because most people don't think you should.
Yeah, that's not one that a majority would typically embrace. But yeah, if a majority did. Oh, wait, did I understand you right there?
Most people know that that's wrong and believe it. Okay? And it is wrong. Taking advantage of innocence, that's wrong. Right? Am I going out on a limb? Should I be pausing and reflecting?
Yeah. Certain beliefs don't need reflection. They're intuitively wrong. Killing, harming children, and so on. I get that point.
I mean, but even with killing, that's a mixed one. It's because why are you killing? Self-defense, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But
sure.
Is there any other way to get to the counterclaim other than to say that not all majority held opinions need to be a reflection event?
Another way I would articulate the counterclaim, and our listeners, it's important to know you can play with the counterclaim in different ways. Oftentimes it's not an opposite, it's just a different angle that falls under the bucket of a counterclaim. So what if we said something like this? Whenever you find yourself in the minority or thinking alone, it's time to pause and reflect.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Okay, I got it first.
I
mean, that's kind of a counterclaim.
That's fair. I mean, a lot of people take weird positions on things, and it doesn't mean that they are some virtuous, insightful character. Like, some people are, here's the word, contrarians.
Yeah, right. I was just going to go there.
Make an entire ideology based off taking the opposite of what most people do. And that becomes a crutch in itself. That becomes kind of like, it's like groupthink, but it's more like you've convinced yourself.
Well, and you're holding the opinion to just anger other people or to just be obstinate for no reason. I mean, we have friends who we talk to who are like this. Heck, I might be like this sometimes as well.
No, stop reflecting.
Yeah. They like to find themselves as the only one in the room with the different opinion. But the energy is they don't really believe it. They're just saying it to be different.
They're
and so that's time to pause and reflect on that. Why are you back to psychology? Why are you doing that?
Funny. This is kind of what we're doing with the counterclaim. Because, we tell the teachers, we say, you don't want the kids doing groupthink on everyone agreeing with the claims of these brilliant people. you got to do a counterclaim just in case. And in a way, we're forcing people. Wait a minute. This is what the method is. You force people to pause and reflect after you get someone else's truth.
Exactly what you do. And then you articulate another truth that you may or may not believe in, but that's important to give your brain some oxygen to express. Because by doing that, it's stretching your understanding in a way that is impossible without articulating an opposing view.
And you don't necessarily have to reconcile it. You just have to live in both worlds. I'd say the main difference between the teach different method and what Twain is saying here is that, in fact, most of the quotes that we come up with, I think the most profound, are kind of insightful quotes. They might not be something everyone agrees on, but, the power of them is that they say it, you say it like Gandhi, when he said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. There's something so true about that you have to acknowledge, but you also have to be careful. So I don't know. I'm going back and forth.
The method is very related to this. The spirit of this quote is very aligned to what we're trying to do with this method. Pause and reflect and consider before having opinions. And by doing that, again, why are we doing that at Teach Different? We're doing it because it's good for your brain. This is good for your mental health. This is good for your empathy, your listening skills, and general communication.
And it gets you wise. I mean, that's the main thing. I'm thinking of a essential question, and the essential question would be something like, when everyone agrees with you, how do you know when that's a danger or it's something that, you just can accept to be true and that's okay? You're part of the herd on that one. That doesn't mean it's wrong.
How do I know when it's safe and okay to agree with the majority? How do I know when I should go against the majority? When should I go against the majority? There are a lot of spin-off questions here. When is pausing and reflecting a negative thing with beliefs?
That's another one. I was thinking something almost more nefarious, something like, how do you know when the majority is becoming dangerous? What the groupthink, like, how do you know when something's getting out of control when a lot of people believe something that is not right, not true?
Well, to answer that, it's when the minority voices are suffocated in ways that are intimidating, in ways demonized. There's fear. Whenever it's uncomfortable and unsafe to speak out against it, I think that's a sign that it's raging out of control.
The majority's trying to
suppress all opposition.
Right. And there's dynamics here, because the majority of the people is different than the government that has the power at that moment that the people are propping up, and in our democracy, whoever's president is already propped up, for 4 years. But anyway,
right, but it could be the majority within the branch of government, Congress. It's just a different kind of majority.
Right.
This is a good one for government. It's a good one for peer pressure.
Yeah.
It's a good one for everybody, because we all in life are put in situations where we have decisions on whether or not to agree with the prevailing wisdom of something, or take a stand against it. And so pausing and reflecting, no matter what you believe in, pausing and reflecting is an important virtue, disposition to have as a good thinker.
And you should have it going in regardless of whether or not it's the majority opinion, ideally. You later learn, oh, that's what most people think. Oh, okay, well, I thought that through. I'm going to stay with that. That's an answer to how do you know if you should go with the majority opinion? If you thought about it first before you worried about other people, good sign.
Yeah, although you might have thought about it without evidence and careful reasoning, but yeah.
All right. I mean,
Mark Twain.
that was worth it. That's definitely usable. This is where I'd love to hear some people try this with some of our young people or with some other adults. We love to hear stories about things like this. That's something you definitely share with us as well. In fact, if you share a story about how you used one of these quotes and you contact us on our website and share it, I'm going to say it, we'll give you access to this professional learning community, this bank of quotes, and where all these teachers are. We're going to give you access to that for, 6 months, something like that. We'll take care of you. Just show us that you're trying this stuff, because this is why we created Teach Different, to get these conversations going. So anything to add?
No, all good. It was a good quote.
All right. I love the quote. We'll see everybody soon. Take care for now.